Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Yep.
You press this button, go to the next slide. This button, go to the previous slide. And move this.
All right. Thank you. All right. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Good. What is it? Afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me here and for letting me give a presentation about well, what we're doing with digital product passports in the electronic sector in the Netherlands and in Europe. Allow me to first very briefly introduce myself. There we go. Fantastic. As mentioned, my name is Sjeord Rongen. I'm from the Dutch Research Institute of TNO, the Netherlands being that small red dot there on the map. In Northwestern Europe. We've also recently opened an office here in Korea in case you don't want to travel as far to meet my colleagues. And then within the Netherlands, a small country, TNO is a big institute with some 4,000 employees. Part of us, my part of the organization works on digital product passports across various domains, including electronics. Besides that, TNO works on a bunch of other domains. The main thing to take away from this is our institute tries to work on public-private partnerships where we have government, private companies and research institutes coming together to tackle societal challenges, for example, in digitization or sustainability, which is my sort of main area of interest. And on that sustainability topic, I would like to spend a little bit more time because it is very tempting to dive into legislation straight away, but that makes it seem as if this circular economy and digital product passport ID is only there because lawmakers want it to be there, which I don't think is the case, right? If we take a look at the world right now, we want to become sustainable in a variety of areas, including ecology, that is to say lower our carbon emissions, economic sustainability, that is to say our companies need to keep making money, right? Otherwise they will just be outcompeted out of the market. And finally, social sustainability, how do we want to live together, right? What type of world are we building together? And if I may be a little bit provocative here, I don't think the electronic sector is currently doing a perfect job. There is some room for improvement. If you look at these stats from the World Health Organization, there's some, well, to me, frightening statistics there about how much material is being wasted, about the sort of harm to personal health that e-waste is doing. And in general, you know, we throw away a lot of materials right now that are polluting the environment and the people that live in it. That's not a problem for which I take no blame. If you look at this map here from that same study, you'll see the green countries here are exporting e-waste and the red ones are importing e-waste or get the e-waste dumped on their doorstep. You'll notice there, I'm from the Netherlands at the bottom, my e-waste is one of the big contributors in the world, right? I'm the problem here, if you will. So plenty of things to do here to become more sustainable and yeah, work ahead of us. Right. Besides the sustainability angle, there's another reason to be working towards sustainability, at least there is in our research, which has to do with strategic autonomy. That is to say the ability for Europe to keep our economy going and our companies operating even when we find that our supply chains are being disrupted. Right? So if we are fully reliant on importing material and exporting waste, we are only one ship stuck sideways in the Suez Canal away from our entire economy grinding to a halt. Whereas if we are able to recycle or remanufacture a lot of products or keep products and materials in our economy for longer, our dependency on external contributors goes down, right? So this would lower our dependency or our risk, if you will, for trade wars, for example. Right, so we want to move to a circular economy because of sustainability reasons, because of strategic autonomy reasons, and it happens to be that there's also legislation that wants us to move in that direction, right? And in fact, there is quite a lot of legislation. I won't spend too much time on this because it was already very well presented also in the first presentation about what's going on in Europe. Maybe interesting here on the side, you see one of those energy labels for phones now, including a repairability score there at the bottom. It's over And then on the very left, you see the same table from the ESPR working plan that is sort of highlighting which domains we will get under this legislation. But in general, the takeaway I would like you to have from all this legislation is that it doesn't matter that much which sector you're active in. You will have to move to more circularity. You will need to provide more information about your circular business processes and the provenance or lineage of your products, right? It's a question of when, not if. Right. So hopefully, if we all sort of work on this, right, we can become more sustainable altogether and society at large. Now let's jump a little bit to what is it that we are specifically doing to make this transition happen, right? So this is what I mentioned already, right? We want to get more circularity for the sustainability, and to ensure we become more circular, we need to share more product information or share more information to our value chains, right? We need to know where our products come from and what they're still worth at the end of their life if you want to make efficient use of them in your recycling context. Right. So there's a lot of things going on to make that happen, right? To make those product passports and that data sharing stuff happen. This is a picture we made in the Surpass 2 project. There's a couple of different shapes and forms it's taking now, but the general idea is we have these legal requirements. So that's the orange box on the left for you with, for example, the ESPR or the battery regulation. That's high-level EU legislation telling companies this is what you need to report on, right? For most industries, that legal requirement is probably going to be too abstract. You'll need more details than European law is going to provide to you, right? If you actually want to make use of this and you want to create value from this as well in your organization. So what we expect will happen is that sectoral organizations, coalitions of companies, right? Maybe countries, but coalitions of organizations will get together. They'll take a look at this legislation and they'll discuss how to expand that. How can we create value from that? So an example is, as I'm sure will be discussed in one of the, I think the room over there on batteries. In Europe, we've seen this battery pass initiative that started with the battery regulation, and they took that as a sector and expanded that to something that adds value to the whole sector, right? So that goes a little bit beyond legislation already, and it's a common agreement within the sector. Now, if you take this agreement, or this standard, if you will, and you want to implement that within your company, you are probably going to find out you need even more, right? To make it meet your business processes, to make it fit into your systems. So you're going to expand this standard again, right? Which is here on the very right side, the dark blue part, if you will. And our expectation, my expectation, is that we will see a structure like this reflected in the digital product passport in primarily the information model or the semantic model, the information need of the product passport, right? Where we'll see a small legally required set of data, a large sectoral set of data that will be common between product categories or between companies, and then finally some extensions for an individual company. You may be realizing now that just understanding the legislation is only the starting point of this bigger sort of task ahead of all of us when it comes to product passports, circularity, and then sustainability, right? So another reason not to focus only on the EU legislation. It's a great starting point, but it's not going to be the final part of your journey here. Right. Now, I promised to give some examples of what we are working on. This is one of them. This is an EU project. It's called Da Capo. For those of us that are into music, that also is used in music when you go back to the beginning, right? The Da Capo project is about how we integrate IT systems with circularity and sustainability. And it looks into quite a wide range of tools, right? Everything from large language models to product passports, semantic models, a wide range of topics. One thing I would like particularly to highlight here is we have a pilot line there, a collaboration in the project with the Dutch phone maker called Fairphone. They are quite small in gross revenue, so I'm not sure if anyone here has heard of them. But their whole claim to fame is that their phones are very, very repairable and very sustainable. They're also quite a bit more expensive than competing phones, I have to to add there. What's nice here is that Fairphone has turned this idea of circularity and sustainability in their whole business model of their product, right? Their whole unique selling point is that you can unscrew the phone, you can easily replace the screen. And in fact, my better half, my wife, she has a Fairphone. She dropped it quite badly a month ago, and it took her about 10 minutes afterwards to fix the screen. And keep in mind, she is not an electrical engineer. She's, an ecologist by training. So this is not her strong suit. Besides the repairability, these phones also contain a lot of recycled materials. They use a lot of repurposed components. So in general, sustainability here as a value proposition, right? And that is then supported by a wide range of IT tools to provide insight in that. And, well, I can recommend you take a look at their website. It's quite nice, and they launched a new phone 2 weeks ago. So everything is new on the Fairphone website. Right. Second project that is quite large, in fact quite a bit larger in Europe, is the Surpass 2 project. This is an EU project that looks solely into digital product passports and how we can go beyond the legal requirements and add value to multiple domains of organizations. So it's a project that is now running for about a year out of its 3-year timeline. It has about 50 EU organizations involved, and through the involvement of further pilot lines, there is over 100 different companies that participate. Right. In this project, we have defined an architecture, an IT design for digital product passports that you could use in a wide range of domains. What we're now doing is we're applying this architecture and these the associated semantic models or information models in a number of different pilot lines. And you can see all those pilot lines on the slide here. So you'll notice there are some of them that are on apparel or textiles, right? There are some in construction or tires, tires being one of those interesting product categories actually in the EPREL database that do not use power, but that's a side topic, I suppose. So we have a number of domains that are being covered in the Surpass 2 project that all want to make use of the same digital architecture to enable circularity and become more sustainable. You'll see quite a few of them have to do with electronics. Now, these pilot lines have yet to be fully implemented, so I can unfortunately not yet tell you what the added value is for these companies of implementing this. Right? But what we are seeing is that there is multiple types of companies, all including their suppliers and customers in these pilot lines, trying to implement systems here to become more sustainable. And it's not just the categories that are covered under legislation again, right? So for example, audio equipment is not one, at least I'm familiar with, under direct product passport legislation. So again, legislation as a starting point, not as the final destination of this initiative. I can recommend you take a look at the Surpass 2 website as well. There is a lot of information on there about the variety of EU legislation that's being put out and communications by the European Commission. There's also publications on the direction that the IT architecture is taking, and some suggestions on how companies can make money off of this as well, for those that are interested. Right. And that sort of brings me to my final slide already. Which is that I think it's up to you or us or everybody in this room to make this happen, right? We have a lot of technology, we have a lot of the concepts figured out. There's a lot of organizations that have a lot of expertise already in this area that you can ask for help for or reach out to. There's a lot of examples of companies that are already working on this topic. It's now up to all of us to figure out what the circularity and data sharing in my value chain, what does that mean in my business, in my organization? How will I design my products, or how will I deal with the end of life of products to make the most out of this and make this transition to circularity so we get rid of those horrendous statistics from the World Health Organization that I started with, right? That's at the end what we want to diminish. We want to reduce the amount of e-waste and the pollution that causes, for example. So that is my call to action, and I hope that this has inspired you a little bit to get started and or continue your journey.
네, 롱엔 코디네이터님 발표 잘 들었습니다. 롱앤 코디네이터님께서는 결국 전자산업의 지속
For Mr. Longhan, I have some questions. So he shared many DPP projects and sustainability related projects. He said regulation is the starting point, but you need to have a more detailed understanding and application of the specific requirements for each sector and each product. So in the panel discussion, I want you to address the following. So audiences are here want to know how the DPP will be implemented. So regarding DPP, we have some concerns. There are many requirements or required information in accordance with ESPR. How we can compile and gather all that data and information. ESPR requires a lot of information. So to what extent, to what level do we need to gather and collect information? So how the European industry is responding to the requirement? Are there any concerns raised by the industry in the EU? Or how the Korean companies can respond to the DPP and data requirements? If you can discuss that in the panel discussion, it will be very useful.